Welcome, I'm Rabbi Phil Bressler of Beit Am in Corvallis, Oregon, and this is the daily summary video for the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yomi Daily Halakha Learning Project, covering the passage from Siman 149, Seif 12, to Siman 150, Seif 5. You can find links to the Hebrew and English text of this passage and to the calendar of upcoming passages in this video's description. Wrapping up very briefly the topic of celebration at a wedding. As we noted previously, there's actually an extended week-long period of celebration after a wedding. A husband is actually obligated to spend time and be with his new wife, which I think is actually it's a good idea, but a pretty positive comment on, the kind of seriousness that they want to treat weddings with. And in fact, he's got to stay where he is, as in like his hometown, for at least the first year of their marriage. And this is based on a Torah verse exempting newly married men from military service. So after the wedding, and I got to admit, this next part is pretty unintentionally hilarious, we're going to talk about sex. Specifically, how to have sex, which the translation here calls marital relations, with great holiness, pure thoughts, and a correct attitude. Now, this is obviously not the way we usually talk about sex within the framework of marriage or otherwise. And it's undoubtedly impoverished by the fact that, again, only the male perspective is really reflected. But there are two elements here that I think are important to mention. Whether they're ultimately redeeming or not is up to you. Despite the male perspective, a married woman's sexual needs are taken seriously and validated and seen to. That'll be covered tomorrow. And second, although the execution here is hopelessly awkward, stilted, the idea that halakha, like conscientious Jewish decision making, ought to extend into the bedroom is actually, I think, in a way admirable. The point really is to examine every aspect of our lives carefully and to try to live in a way that reflects our values. So why should sex be any different from anything else? There's a certain reverence and a certain seriousness here that contemporary discourse, I think, sometimes lacks. The reality is, though, this is awkward and hilarious. Here's the digest version of what the Kitzur says, at least in the first half of this discussion, about how to have sex within the confines of marriage. First, take it seriously. Don't joke or be frivolous about it, even privately, with your partner. Don't have any conversation immediately before or during, only what's strictly necessary to get it done. Man on top is the only permitted position. This is framed as an issue of modesty. Uh, and I think that the terms used to describe some alternatives are interesting. A woman being on top of the man is called impudence, uh, which seems like it has almost a moral dimension, like it's somehow thumbing your nose at, I don't know, God, I guess, to do it that way, versus doing it on the same level, I guess, side by side, or any other arrangement is considered perverted. I don't get the impression, though, based on the Hebrew, that this is like a moral judgment, though. It just seems like they think you're doing it wrong, like it's not going to work. Like you're doing it the wrong way. I love the anecdote here about Rabbi Eliezer, who was apparently so full of awe and reverence that it was like a demon was forcing him to do it. Like there's supposed to be a certain reluctance about this whole thing, like it's something we understand is necessary and serious and really important to the continuation of humanity, but also we're sort of reluctant about it. Real demon in the sack, that Rabbi Eliezer. While you're doing it, think about Torah or Torah related matters. Don't talk about Torah, but do think about it. I don't know if this was sort of a coaching, method for, stamina or what, but I guess part of the sense of reverence potentially too. You got to do it with the lights off, not even by moonlight. And I think the idea is that like seeing too much can get you too worked up. And you can't really be serious or reverent anymore if you're too worked up like that. You can't do it around other people unless they're asleep, which sounds risky. But pre-verbal children who don't know what's up, it's okay to do it in their presence while they're around. That's all for today. We have some more really interesting topics to cover tomorrow. As always, our learning is dedicated to Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, the author of the Kitzur and the historic Jewish community of Uzhhorod, Ukraine. We'll see you tomorrow.